remember what I say and then write it in the script next time, okay?
At first, you don't succeed. Let's keep it
Can we
going.
use AI? Can we just have AI just like type everything?
Shit.
Remember what I was talking about?
Welcome to our premiere episode of Last Call with 3.5 Gentlemen. Tonight we're going to do a little bit more somber episode where we take 30 to 45 minutes and talk about something that's happened in movies. We'll discuss movies that we're not going to necessarily do a big review of, but after all, we are still the podcast where 3 of the 4 hosts provide a refined and intellectual analysis of movies from our private collections, while one of us tries desperately to keep up. Tonight, we're going to honor a man that he meant different to each of us, and we watched him growing up. Jeremiah, what do we got on tap for tonight's last call?
For tonight's last call, we have the one and only Val Kilmer. Yes, one of our favorite actors has passed away. And you know what? We just want to do a little celebrations for our little sideshow that we have here for our podcast. The man has over 100 credits to his name, and he passed away on April 1st. And so we're just doing a little celebration about our favorite movies here. Eddie.
Yeah, for this episode, we want to give a retrospective on Val Kilmer's career. As we talked about some of his roles we loved and why they're special to each of us.
And while the death of anyone is painful, we hope that by talking about Val Kilmer's craft, we can continue the legacy he created on the screen, on the stage, and in our collective minds.
Perfect. So let's start it off. Sean.
So my movie that I picked to bring to the table is called The Saint, and it's probably one of his most underrated movies. I've been looking at it kind of all day, and it is a remake of a TV show starring the great Roger Moore, who was, of course, James Bond. And he played Simon Templar, who basically created a vast amount of characters within this movie that he played to try and get back a cold fusion device, if I remember correctly. It also starred Elizabeth Shue, and it was an underrated hit. I think one of the reasons why it didn't get great cinematic approval is because it kind of got lost in the Mission Impossibles.
Yeah.
Lost in some more exciting movies, and it was more of a thinker. Mm-hmm. He's more of a thinking character. But what Val Kilmer brought to the role, and this is what I think Val Kilmer brings to every role he does, is a quiet confidence. And he brings this it's almost like a Zen-like quality to his characters, where he embraced everything there was to know about the character immediately, and he was the character. He lived the character. And I think that is something that I really appreciated about this one, because he played so many characters. He had at least 15 different characters that he played, and it was different accents and different looks, and he would put different makeup on, and it was a really good example of how great of an actor he really was, and I will miss him tremendously.
I love that movie. That was a movie that I remember really, really enjoying. He was so sharp and quick. He knew how to get away with stuff, and it was just I just enjoyed him in The Saint. I thought it was a very great movie.
And The Saint's a cool character. He's suave and sophisticated like James Bond, but a little bit more technical, a little bit more He was all about Master of Disguise, right? It was not the same as, go shoot a gun.
Yes.
I agree with you, Sean, that it got lost in the shuffle, because when that movie came out, you had, Mission Impossible. That was the biggest thing. And then you also had the Avengers, too. So that was another television show that kind of got brought into that part in the late 90s. It's sad it got lost in the shuffle. People, listeners, give it a chance. Watch it.
The Saint, I think, is a movie that I have allowed to get lost in my shuffle. For me, I always kind of associate it with The Jackal, with Richard Gere, because I think they came out relatively right about the same time.
Yeah.
The Saint is unfortunately a movie that didn't get a lot of kind of credit. And it's weird, because when I'm thinking about it, I know we're going to go around and talk about it. As I was going through Val Kilmer's movies and his, list filmography, I kept thinking that almost every single movie of his kind of flew under the radar. Like, he's a huge actor, but he's somebody that I think wasn't as big as he could have been and should have been. And I don't really know why. And so it's something I kind of want to just throw out there and float out there for us to kind of consider. Like, is it because none of them are bad movies, but at the same time, they're not the movies that are kind of jumping to our minds.
I might have an answer for that. I think it's just the path that he went after this movie I'm going to talk about made it different what he should have been, and he kind of did his own little thing here. The movie that I'm talking about is Batman Forever. This was the role for him to be, the superstar of all superstars. I mean, he was passing the torch from Keaton, as being the Cape Crusader. And as much as I love Keaton, he's my favorite Batman, I think Val Kilmer's Batman is one of the most underrated Batmans of all Batman films. And the reason why I say this is that he does a perfect balance between Bruce Wayne and Batman. There's nothing wrong with it. It's the perfect balance, He doesn't play it dangerous, but he kind of dives into the psychological aspect of what Batman is, and he plays the role so fucking good on this one. Now, the thing what happened is that he was supposed to do the second Batman, the next Batman, and it never happened because I think he decided to walk away and do Heat. He kind of went over here, like 2 different paths and everything like that. And give a chance for Batman Forever. I think people get it, don't like it, but it's okay. The bat nips, yeah, they're kind of weird and shit, but it's got one of the greatest soundtracks. And you know what? Jim Carrey is really good as a villain, as the Riddler. He gives one of the top 3 quotes of all Batman movies. You got Heath Ledger, Why So Serious? You got Joker, Jack Nicholson, where you get these wonderful toys. And then his quote, Riddler, is like, riddle me this, riddle me that. Who's afraid of the big bad bat? It's still fun. And the problem is that you will never see Joe Schumacher's director's cut of what the version was supposed to be, because Warner Brothers wanted to do just sell Happy Meals and make it all kid friendly. But get a chance. Val Kilmer, I think this is one of the most underrated Batmans that you ever see.
Well, I was gonna say, I do remember that movie being. It felt like there was another side of it. Watching it when I was older, right? I felt like, oh, you know what? Like this has Val Kilmer in this movie actually plays a little deeper side of Bruce Wayne that you can tell that they were pushing it aside, and you felt like Tommy Lee Jones and Jim Carrey it was supposed to be funny. They kept trying to push the funniness to it.
Yeah.
I was like, come on now, don't take away from the leading role of Batman here. Val Kilmer is a gem in that movie.
If you really dive into that movie, I mean, you've got him talking with
Nicole Kidman.
Nicole Kidman about, she was talking about the psychology of Batman and having Robin's parents die in front of him the way they did, him taking Robin in his award, and all of that was super serious against a very different type of movie that came out. I think if they would have allowed Joel Schumacher, was it Joel Schumacher that directed it?
Yeah.
Which is, yeah, if they would have let him do it, I think it would have been a lot more Burton-y, a lot more dark than you might have anticipated. I actually read an article that the first cut of the movie was so dark, they had to reel it back because they were worried about the violence, and Two-Face was like a vicious murderer who would cut people's faces off and like leave, and it's like, where's that movie?
Right.
I think the thing though that we need to remember is that I think what Schumacher was doing, but I also think what Warner Brothers was doing, is they were trying to maybe bring in more of the Adam West camp version of Batman. Right. Because I mean, Batman, we always think of it as the dark kind of superhero movies, and that's because of Keaton in a lot of ways. But I mean, if we look at the TV series, the Adam West TV series, I mean, that was the boom, pow, kabam, holy, whatever Batman, like that was so over the top silly that Schumacher, I think, was actually trying to capture that. And to me, I think that Batman Forever struggled because it was trying to do too many different things. I think it's kind of like some of these movies that we've been doing. It didn't know what it was supposed to be, and it was trying to hit too many different things that I think pleased too many people. But I mean, going on to what Jer said, I still, to this day, will defend Val Kilmer as being the best casting of any Batman. I think that he encompasses and embodies Bruce Wayne more than Christian Bale, more than Robert Pattinson.
Well, yeah.
I love Michael Keaton, but at the same time, Val Kilmer is still my choice over Keaton because he is suave. He has that almost, 007 James Bond suaveness, which I know is sacrilege.
He plays a good billionaire. Right.
He plays a great billionaire, but then he has that steel-hearted, cold demeanor when he puts on the cowl. And I think that he could have been something really, really great.
And just from a one perspective, I think Val Kilmer, you made a comment earlier that his career wasn't exactly what it could have been. I think Val Kilmer had interests that far outstripped his leading man status.
Yes.
I think that he was a wonderful artist, and he was a wonderful poet, and he had a lot of shit going in his life that had nothing to do with movies. And I think he was an incredibly artistic person, and it was bursting from him. I remember seeing an interview with him on Kevin and Bean, and he had spent the summer in like Provence following the footsteps of Van Gogh painting in the Italian countryside, and it's like, all right, dude, like, you got it, like, you're good.
What I mean is, like, I don't look as hard as him as saying like you should have went this path. I think he was one of the better Batmans that we've seen in a long time, and I think it's one of his better roles. That's my opinion. So.
I agree.
Eddie, what's your movie?
Yeah, so my movie is something that we have done before, and I feel like it was done earlier in our podcasting era, season 1, Tombstone. I see, as you guys see, Batman is Val Kilmer. I think he's also the best Doc Holliday, whoever has played Doc Holliday. Looking at some of his great movies, I feel like he enjoyed playing with other great actors. You look at Heat, you look at this one right here, Tombstone, you look at The Saint. He enjoyed playing with other leading role actors and actresses. Like, I personally like this movie, and I even said that this is probably one of the best Western movies that I enjoyed. I don't think we gave it enough credit earlier in our podcasting, but it's a movie that I know Kurt Russell, he was saying he absolutely enjoyed playing with Val Kilmer in this. They actually, throughout the whole filming, they gave each other gifts. You know, like they were like,
Oh.
yeah, that was like, it was something that they did on the side. And it was something that makes me think like, that's Val Kilmer's style. Like he's something that he enjoyed people, and he was very fun to play with, I felt like. So personally, Tombstone, and you know, we all know that movie is still high up on the Westerns, right? So I want to say that's a 7.8 out of 10 on IMDb and 75 on Rotten Tomatoes. Obviously, it could be arguably as one of the number one popular Western movies of all time. And, you know, I don't think Tombstone's Tombstone without Val Kilmer in that movie.
Good point, dude.
I think you're right. I think one movie that I will say before Brandon goes, I know Brandon has a great movie. I want to slip in there is A Ghost in the Darkness, which nobody has seen.
Oh, that's
And
a
that
great
was with
fucking
Michael
movie.
Douglas.
Yeah.
And I was just looking at his filmography going, God dang it. That movie is one of those, that's a zero movie. If
Yeah.
if we're talking about movies where people go against lions.
Dude,
you
it's
know,
good.
like
It's so good. It's such a good fucking movie. Oh god, listeners, it might be an episode that we might do in the future.
it's a great movie, but it's him and Michael Douglas, and they're in Africa building a bridge in the 90s, and their tribe, their group that's building the bridge keeps getting attacked by lions, and they bring in Michael Douglas to shoot the lion, kill the lion, and Val Kilmer's the architect, and he gets a gun and goes with Michael Douglas to go kill this lion to save his project. And I'm telling you, it's one of the most suspenseful movies out there. It is just
Yeah,
like
dude.
edge of your seat. What's gonna fucking happen?
Yeah.
All right, so no, Eddie, I think that number one, Tombstone is the movie that you kind of, I don't want to say you stole from me, but the one movie that I think about when I think about Val Kilmer is Tombstone. And that's just because I don't think I've ever seen a performance where an actor loses themselves so wholly and holistically and perfectly within a character. And I know we said this, in the episode, and absolutely, listeners, go back and listen to that one, because, we spent the hour, I would say 42 minutes of the hour talking about Val Kilmer. And I think that there's a reason for that this is more than just a guy who is pretending to be somebody else for a couple hours. This is about somebody who lived that person's existence during the filming of that film. I think that even Daniel Day-Lewis does his method acting, and I still think that Val Kilmer plays the role even better than Daniel Day-Lewis could have. And I think that Val Kilmer just absolutely hit a home run. So Eddie, this is a perfect choice for honoring Val Kilmer for sure.
Thank you.
This is the movie that he should have been nominated for an Oscar.
He should have won.
And unfortunately, in 1993, it was a banner year for like some of the best performances. You had Leonardo DiCaprio for What's Eating Gribble Grape. You had Ray Fiennes for Schindler's List. You had Tommy Lee Jones, who won the Oscar for The Fugitive. You had John Malkovich for In the Line of Fire. You got Pete Palswick for The Name of the Father. I would have removed that fool in there, put Val Kilmer in, because that movie, he owned the movie. It's one of the best movies. When you think about the 90s, you think about Westerns, you think of Val Kilmer. That's the performance. It's one of the performances of the lifetime. He should have been nominated for a few awards, in my opinion. The Doors. Yeah. It's a better performance than Timothée Chalamet. It's a better performance than that performance there. It's a better performance than Austin Butler and Elvis. If that movie was made today, he would have been nominated for an Oscar. I guarantee you it.
I mean, I don't think there's very much of a argument that Val Kilmer's best role is Doc Holliday. I mean, that is by and large what he's most recognizable for. Mm-hmm. And I mean, he's got lines in there that what's hilarious is he's got lines in there that will be spoken by people in normal conversation probably until the end of time. I'm your Huckleberry.
How many times he said it in video games, playing Halo or something, or Call of Duty, we roll up on someone.
I mean, say when.
Say when. I say that all the time. I said to my cat, no, say when, Dr. Todd. No, but one of the lines that I love most about that movie and that his delivery of it is, why are you here, Doc? And he says, well, Wyatt Earp's my friend. And the guy goes, I got lots of friends. He goes, I don't. And it's just like, it capsulizes his character so beautifully. And I believe Val Kilmer's personal connection with the actors on set. I think that he really did engage with these people on a beautiful level. I think that he was a beautiful person.
I'm gonna round us out right now, and with all the other choices that you guys have brought, they've all been serious roles, and they've all been beautifully done and crafted roles. And I want to look at actually Val Kilmer's very first film that he made. And so when I think of Val Kilmer, and when I heard the sad, devastating news that we heard a couple of weeks ago, my mind went to two different films. The first being Tombstone, and the second being the 1984 film Top Secret. And I know it's a silly, stupid movie, but for whatever reason, it's one of those movies that lives with me, and it's part of my childhood. And I don't think a lot of people and viewers know about Top Secret, so I'm just going to give you just a quick little run through of what it is. It's a film made by the Zucker brothers, which, if you don't know them, they're the ones who brought us Airplane. They brought us Naked Gun, Police Squad, all these kind of movies that lampoon different genres of film. And with this movie, it's lampooning the Elvis films of the 1950s. And so basically, Val Kilmer plays this suave Elvis-like character back in the Cold War times, named Nick Rivers, and he goes to East Germany for kind of a USO tour kind of thing, but for East Germany during the Cold War. And he ends up getting himself embroiled in this huge kind of civil war within East Germany, or he ends up helping the other side. And I mean, it's as stupid and silly comedy as you can get. Think Mel Brooks, think of other Zucker films, but for whatever reason, I still will think about that film and my childhood and link the two together inextricably. And there are some scenes that still, while I'm driving down the road, I'll think of a scene or a line from that movie, and I'll find myself smiling or actually like laughing out loud. And there's not many movies and films or actors that make me feel the way I do when I think about that movie. So I'm just going to kind of throw it out. Have you guys seen that movie?
Nice.
I have not, but I will see it because now it's like something I could tell I could like. It's like Airplane, Hot Shots, but like
very much, yes.
It's somewhere between. I'm watching the trailer a little bit. It's somewhere between a Mel Brooks movie and Naked Gun. That's exactly what it is.
That's what it
is. And it's one of those. It's got to be just full of satire, full of funny moments.
This has Sean written all over it.
Well, I can't think of a better person to do this slapstick, ridiculous stuff than Val Kilmer, because he plays it so straight. Most of the time, he is just, and that's what like the great Leslie Nielsen. That's why he was so great at comedy, is because he played it like it was a very serious person. He was a very serious actor. And he was in the midst of, Gene Wilder did the same thing. He was in the midst of ridiculousness, and he was the one who kept it together. And so I can see Val Kilmer doing that for sure. And I'm excited to see that. I will watch that. I love a slapstick, silly, funny,
it's so silly
just because you can.
Yeah. Before Jared goes, I just want to tell you, like, literally, this is just, it shows just how stupid. Literally, every time I think of this, I just smile, I laugh. But there's a scene where the character's locked up in this prison with the scientist, and the whole the plot revolves around the scientist, get him to build a super bomb. And so we find out that the scientist has been digging a tunnel to get him out, and he's had it with this little tiny spoon, and you can see it's all weathered. And the scientist says, here, go ahead and see what my tunnel looks like. And so Val Kilmer sticks his head in the tunnel. And of course, it's like this New York, New Jersey, like turnpike tunnel with lights. And it's so stupid. But the look that Val Kilmer pulls his head out and looks at the camera, and it's just this innocent amazement. And what I think I love so much about Val Kilmer in this movie is when you compare him to something like Tombstone, or you compare him to something like The Saint, or you compare him to something like Heat, and you see just how night and day this character is from everything else that he played. To me, it shows, number one, range, but it shows just how fun film can be, and at the same time how serious film can be. And I love it. I cannot recommend it more. If you just a dumb, brainless comedy, definitely it's worth it.
No, I used to get that movie mixed up, Top Secret, with the other movie, Real Genius, like, because it came out at the same time, where he was a scientist. What a reason. I could be driving, I can listen to Tears for Fears, Everyone Wants to Rule the World, and I always think about this house that's exploding with popcorn. I think it's the funniest fucking thing. But that's what Val Kilmer has in a lot of ways, is that he has this range where he can do these crazy hardcore films, but he can be so funny, Top Secret is a funny film. Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, him and Robert Downey Jr., they go back and forth, but he's so fucking good in this movie. He was one of those like actors that can do anything.
If Val Kilmer was in the movie, you remember Val Kilmer.
Yeah,
and that's something to say about his filmography, especially when you make the a kind of a just comment that he didn't do the greatest films, but he made his mark and was memorable, and what he did was important. So I think generally I agree with that.
He will always be our Iceman, dude.
I was gonna say,
I
we haven't even
personally
talked about
think
Top Gun, but yeah,
he did change cinema. Like you could see, like he could take both roles, and you would forget who's the leading role. He could easily hold both of them, and he was okay with it. He didn't mind it. It seemed like,
Yeah.
So I feel like he changed cinema.
I also think that he was integral in pop culture. And I know you guys make fun of me for talking about Psych all the time, but one of the most beautiful parts of that show is the lead character's obsession with Val Kilmer. He's obsessed. He loves Val Kilmer. He mentions Val Kilmer 3 or 4 times an episode. Like, he's part of that show as like the rise and fall of Val Kilmer, then the rise again, all of that. And one of the greatest scenes in that show is at the end of the show, there's this character named Dobson, and Dobson is always shit at paperwork. And if there's a mistake in paperwork, it's Dobson's fault. Dobson down on the 3rd floor, he's the worst thing in the world. And you get this great reveal that Val Kilmer plays Dobson in the last episode of that show, and he turns to the camera and he gets this thing from Sean, from the lead character, and it's like his confession of he's not really a real psychic, he's just whatever. And he goes, "Who's Sean?" And it's just the greatest like moment of Val Kilmer, like meta fourth wall. It was just like, it was very respectful and very good. And yeah.
Just what Wyatt Earp says to Doc in the very last scene from Tombstone. Thanks for always being there, Val. Well, thanks for always being there, Doc, but I'm going to say thanks for always being there, Val. Seriously.
And that about does it for Last Call with 3.5 Gentlemen. We hope you enjoy this episode. This is the first time we're doing this. We're going to bring you more episodes, and we don't know what they're going to be about. They could be about actors. They could be about movies. But we're not going to give these big reviews with numbers. We're just going to provide you with some insight into what we believe are important factors of the movie industry. And that's about it. So with that, I'm going to say cheers, gentlemen, and we'll see you next time for Last Call.
Cheers for Val Kilmer.
cheers.
And listeners, you don't have to go home, but you can't stay here. Last call.